What's up guys, Dave here back again. So the second season of 13 Reasons Why was put out on Netflix a few days ago. I binge watched the whole thing and now I'm here to tell you about it and let you know if it's worth watching. So the first season was about Hannah Baker who killed herself and left behind 13 tapes with 13 reasons. The tapes were then passed around from person to person to let those who influenced her suicide know how she felt, how they made her feel. Meanwhile, the parents are filing a trial against the school for not doing anything to help her, or at least let them know that she needed help. And in season 2 the trial takes place and all the witnesses get to tell their side of the story. While they testify, they become the narrator for the episode being, and this way we get to learn more about Hannah's story, things she didn't mention on the tapes. While so, we see lots of glimpses from the past, but one thing I learned about the scenes from the past was that they were merely just a reflection of the narrator's memories and therefore might not always be 100% true. There's a lot of jumps from present to past, which some might actually say was overdone, but I think it was just fine. It was clear whether or not it was the past or the present, and therefore it was pretty easy to understand, and yeah, it wasn't much of a problem. Another smart thing they did when the narrator spoke in front of the court was to take the audio from there and put it on the scenes from outside the courtroom, where it would fit just fine to the other characters' situations as well.
You fool yourself into thinking that by keeping things hidden, it makes it easier for you to get by.
I think this was a pretty cool feature. While the trial goes on, Claire receives a Polaroid from an unknown sender saying that Hannah wasn't the only one. As the trial starts and Claire receives this picture, Hannah Baker squeezes her way into the show again, this time as a manifestation of Clay's subconsciousness. And whenever Clay gets lost in his mind, Hannah will show up and there will be a dialogue between the two of them. As Hannah's story is being told by other people and hereby other perspectives, and people from her past even shows up, we get to learn that Hannah wasn't as perfect and innocent as you might have thought from watching the first season. I think it's so great that we actually get to see that there's more than one person's truth. You can't just assume that Hannah was right about everything. And it just makes me so glad to see the result of that. Season 2, just as Season 1, builds up the intensity throughout the whole season. So even though you might not connect to it from watching the first episode or the second, maybe even the third, then I'd say it wouldn't take more than 3 episodes at least, top 3 episodes I think, to get into the show. And when the show starts peaking, it doesn't stop. 13 Reasons Why gets to the peaking point and then it just peaks and peaks and peaks all the way. There is no turning back. I experienced very emotional scenes and scenes that have my heart pumping as well. So you get to experience different sets of emotions. You might be happy, you might be sad, you might be angry, you might be whatever, you might not even care, I don't know. But I think this show just hits so hard. It's actually real and relatable. Not like it's real, it's fictional of course, but it's realistic. We also get closer to some of the characters in this season, as we get invited into their homes and get to experience the dynamic in the families and how they actually feel. Something that Hannah couldn't tell us on her tapes. So if I would have to answer you on whether or not it's worth watching, I would say indeed it is. The first season was really good and you might be just fine by only watching that one. But if you want to dig deeper into the characters involved, then that's what season 2 does for you. One thing I did notice though throughout the season was that sometimes it felt like they were talking to the audience. It was actually very pitiful, as it felt like they were trying to defend their own show by answering questions and complaints that might have been from the audience from watching the first season. Like, there's an example right here.
Kids get talking about Hannah, maybe even admiring what she did. They might think somehow that this is an answer. There might be a way for other kids to feel their pain, that they could live on after they die.
Where on her tapes does Hannah say that?
Well, whoever posted her tapes online seems to believe exactly that her story should go on forever.
Maybe they just wanted to start a conversation. I mean, we weren't talking about these things before Hannah.
Oh, of course we were. In counseling sessions, in health classes.
That's not talking, that's telling.
That shouldn't be necessary at all. It felt so out of place, in my opinion. Besides that, I still think it was a good season, and yeah, even though we were told that it was about sexual assault, then it still covers those topics. Just not in the degree that I thought it would. But whatever. So in terms of my ratings, I rate from 1 to 10 stars. And even though this season didn't hit as hard as the first one, then I still think I know where to put it on the scale. I am willing to give it 8 stars. It's realistic, it's well put together, there's depth and development in the characters, and it deals with very important topics, meanwhile it serves as a voice for today's teenagers. 8 stars it will be. Dave's out, thank you for watching. Now go see the second season, if you haven't already.